Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today are Louis D'Souza and Anne-Marie Young. This is your Daily Dose of Happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
Indeed we are, and we're glad to be back on a Monday after the Facebook outage last week that kind of prevented Louis and me from connecting, so we just kind of had to blow off the show last week. But nice to be back with you and with Anne-Marie, who is feeling better than she was, so that's a good thing too.
Thank you.
I'm feeling really good right now, guys. To be honest, I'm feeling really good because I just finished an interview with Selena Dorsey Valentine. She's the founder of the Law of Attraction World Summit. And to give you an idea of how successful they are, their last summit, last February, I think it was, had 25,000 people participate in it worldwide. So it was quite the event, and I'm looking forward to seeing how well they're going to do this year. But she was kind enough to invite me onto the program, so we just finished a really fun interview, and it gave me a chance to kind of touch on the range of topics that we talk about here on the show, as well as to see who she's got on her guest list, because her guest list includes a lot of people that we know. First of all, from The Secret itself, Bob Doyle and Marie Diamond's going to be on, and Joe Vitale. I think it was another one. I don't remember who it was. And then people that we know here from the show, Daniel Mangana is going to be on. Neo Positivity is going to be on. Let's see. Of course, now I'm blanking out, but they're like, Rita Giganti, who used to be on the program. She's going to be on. A number of people that we know are going to be on. So it looks like it's going to be quite the presentation. And, if it's anything like the last one, it's going to be pretty exciting. So among other things, I'm hoping LOA Today gets, listened to by a whole bunch of new listeners.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. So, and Selena is also going to be back as a guest at some point after she's done. I think she runs hers from like the last few days of October into November. So shortly after that, we'll get her back onto the show. And you guys, maybe she'll come on Monday so you guys can meet her. She's really something. She's an amazing person. I don't know if you know her story at all, but she used to do. She comes from the hypnotherapy community. And she used to do presentations in and around New York City where she lives, and then around the country and even around the world. And in March of 2019, she had flown to Australia to do a conference there. And just when they landed, the announcement came through that the U.S. was closing the borders because of COVID. And she was stranded, like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And then they're going to prevent her from doing her conference because everybody was being put into lockdown and so forth. And she was used to doing, I think it was, I'm not sure what the exact count was, quite a few conferences each year, usually 100, 150 people, something like that. She said, well, we've got these people, there's 100 of them or so who are, they've already paid their tickets. We can't just leave them stranded. What do? They said, well, let's try to do it virtually. At least we can give them a little value that way. So they did, and instead of 100 people, they got 1,000.
Wow.
And so they took their cue and they did a few more, and they started getting into the thousands and then tens of thousands. Now they're up to 25,000. God only knows how high it's going to be for this one. But yeah, she is a magnificently skilled attractor. She's just, and you can just tell when you get to know her, she's just like loaded with positive energy. She's just a warm, happy person to be talking to. So it's not a surprise, but it really is pretty exciting.
Isn't it?
Yeah. So that's a nice way to kind of get the show started, right? Talking about something that's really, really feeling good stuff. The real deep down feel good stuff, which we all need. I mean, Anne-Marie, you've been going through some illness and so forth, and you're climbing out of the other side of it. You know how important it is to feel good, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it knocked me for six because I felt so good recently, and then I could feel myself I just wasn't taking care of myself, really. I was just working too hard. So it just came and it bit me on the bum. And yeah, I got quite poorly.
As it is wont to do at times. Yes.
What I often saw in the 9-to-5 work world was when people were working too hard and they weren't prepared or ready or able in their own minds to take a break or to give themselves some ease, the cold or flu would come along and say, hey, if you can't do it, I'll do it for you.
I'll do it for you.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what happened. I was just busy at work. It's crazy times and running around doing the children's stuff. It was my husband's birthday as well as my birthday. So I was trying to plan his surprise birthday and the big 5-0. So yeah, I was really just doing too much. And my body was like, that's enough now. And yeah,
Shut
it
down.
just goes to show, self-care is just so important. Absolutely.
And like Louis says, if you don't do it, it'll do it for you.
Absolutely.
It's a little annoying when it happens, but afterward you realize, you know what? I probably did need that little bit of time off. That was a good thing.
I did.
That's part of the appreciation thing, learning to appreciate the stuff that didn't quite go the way we wanted it to in life. That's something that Selena and I were talking about today. How do you deal with, and then how do you appreciate the stuff that you don't like so much? Let me pose that question to you guys. I'll go to you, Louis, first. How do you appreciate things that you don't like?
I don't.
I can always count on Louis to blow the question in the smithereen. Let's try to see that. So, how do you deal with things that you don't like? How do you find a way to appreciate them?
I don't have very much that I don't like. I'm only focused mostly on what I want. So when I get what I learned from Rich Dad Poor Dad books is a doodad. When a doodad pops along, something that is unwanted and unexpected, that pops into your lap, then, you just focus on the best way of dealing with it and move forward. There's a lot of things at the moment. Little doodads are popping up, but I don't really give them much time. There's watching in the gaming community. There's so many guys. I'm not going to be friends with this group, and I'm going to be friends with this guy. So toxic and this and this. I say I'm friends with them all. I've got a list of 700-800 people who are friends, and they've got a list of 5 or 6 because they've removed everybody. and I've always got team players to play with, and they don't wonder why. I'm very much about being inclusive and not exclusive. I just include everybody, and if there's somebody that I don't particularly gel with, I just look for the best part of them and focus on that, because I know that that's what they're going to rise up and bring and give to me. So, it's fun, because I taught this one woman who was really struggling with a boss. She had had such a hard time with him. She was absolutely furious and, just frustrated and angry and all the rest of it with the boss. And I said, what do you like about him? Do you like his ties, his shoes? Does he sometimes help other people? What do you like? And then she started focusing on these little things, these little things. And after a while, she said, "You know what? He's treating me so differently. I just can't believe it. He's not the same person anymore." What happened? I don't understand. And it's very interesting when people start realizing that once they change themselves and their own thinking, then the environment and the world around them changes. So it's good. I mean, like today, my wife and I, we had some time together this morning. So what we did is we went out and foraged. And we found a whole lot of berries and crab apples and all the rest of it in the local forest that we've got around the corner. And, we came back with basketfuls of berries and this and that. And we'd had so much fun, picking them and walking around and just chatting to each other in the sun, and the beautiful day it was. And, and you just sit there and you think, like, this is an amazing world I'm living in. What's better than foraging and just eating all these crabapple jellies and all these different things that she makes out of them, and chutneys and preserves, and
Well, I can actually tell you something that's going to be a little bit better, and that is we're getting feedback from the audience that your volume is a little bit low, so if you could turn the volume up just a tad, that will be even better than what it was 5 minutes ago.
Okay. Is that better
that's a little stronger. Yeah, that sounds a little bit better. But that's great, though, when you have that kind of experience.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys can hear me well, but it's weird that the audience can't. I don't know. Was I low?
It was low. It was low before. It's
okay.
Stronger now. Yes.
I can make it even stronger, but I think that's probably okay. I don't know. I'm just checking with you guys.
It sounds pretty good. I'd say you're good. Leave it there. There's a little bit of a background hum, but we'll just live with that. That's no big deal.
Oh, okay. So I really, I can't explain to you how relaxing and peaceful it is just walking around the local forests and just looking for different trees and plants. And you got this little app, and you point it to to the flowers and the plants, and it recognizes them, and it tells you what's edible and what's not. And we found out that one of the berries that we're picking, the hawthorn berry, the pip of it is actually, I think it's cyanide. It's a poison.
My goodness. Okay.
So, but we're making a chutney out of the berry, and we throw away the pips. Otherwise, you need to tell us how to make cyanide, guys. I don't know how to do it yet.
I try to avoid that myself.
Sure, we can sell it on the black market. So, it's just so fascinating. So nature has so much to give, You just see these beautiful trees and this beautiful wet grass. And, I've got these shoes, they're called barefoot shoes. And they've got like water from... So wetsuit kind of material, so they're designed to get wet. They're not designed to stay dry. So you're walking in there and you're getting this beautiful dew from the grass into your feet, and you're just wandering around. And they're brilliantly designed shoes. You can feel every little stone and everything under your foot because it's such a thin layer that you've got. And I just love them. You just feel so connected to everything. I can't explain it, but I've always had very, very thin soled shoes, if shoes at all, wandering around. And I just I love feeling that connection to the nature and all the rest of it. It's just cool.
Are you one of these people who likes to go barefoot outside?
Absolutely, yeah. Supermarkets too. I love getting those.
Supermarkets.
What's it like?
Well, it's very grounding, isn't it? Just having that connection to the earth.
Yeah, and the earth vibrates at 4.7 something hertz, almost 5, and it's sealed around the whole earth. It protects the whole earth at 4.7 hertz, and when you connect into it, it can heal. It's been very known well to heal things like schizophrenia has been one of its biggest success stories, like almost 100% success stories on helping heal schizophrenia and other things. It balances you, it gets your blood thinner, so there's no clots, etc. So from a heart health point of view, walking barefoot is incredibly healthy. And the list goes on and on and on and on of how good it is to be in connection with that 4.7 hertz.
By the way, it was JB who let us know that the volume was an issue before, and JB's also asking, do the shoes that you referenced, do they have support? I used to be barefoot all the time, but my arches fell.
So they've learnt recently that flat arches is not a bad thing. There was a supposition somewhere along the line that was not necessarily of particular validity. So you can go and research all that as well. There's a whole lot about hoo-ha on both sides. So I wouldn't worry about flat arches too much. They wouldn't even allow you in the Second World War into the army if you had flat arches.
From my perspective, it comes down to one thing, because my wife has that, and the problem that it creates for her is it misaligns her legs, so that she can actually end up with severe knee and ankle issues because her legs are out of alignment because the arches are flattened.
Okay, so if you want to understand arches, you really have to get spine alignment and hip alignment right. Okay, and then that starts balancing out all the rest. I mean, I've got beautifully high arches, and not too high, fairly flexible. I mean, my feet are pretty much perfect. They're not tight, and they're not skewed, and they're not anything. I can pull between the toes as hard as I want to, and I don't feel any pain. I just feel, I feel the energy coming into them from the toes. Again, this Chi machine, which I've been talking about recently, is just brilliant to get that back alignment, the hip alignment, the spine alignment, all the way through the body, all the way up to the head. It's just brilliant. And then I'm sure the arches will kick in as well. But so look what's happening here. Let's say you get a shoe that's got an arch support. Mm-hmm. What is that doing to the muscles? Is it making them weaker or stronger to be able to hold their arch?
I could make the argument either way, I think, but take whichever direction you want to go.
Well, from my perception, it's now holding you up, so you're not using your natural muscles to hold it in place. So to me, it's harming you having the arch support. I mean, we were designed from a human point of view without any arch support, just to walk on the bare foot. If we didn't, in the old cave days, we just ran around with moccasins, which were just literally what I'm wearing now. It's just a little bit of piece of leather under the foot. And God, or our higher selves, designed us, I think, fairly well. And I think man has come in and messed things up a lot of the time. One of the ways is putting rubber on our feet, which is disconnecting us from that 4.7 hertz, etc., etc., so you can go on. But, everybody has to make their own decision and come to all these things in their own way, in their own time, and not at all if that's the case for them. So, I respect everybody's different opinions. JB says it's a matter of comfort. It's too painful to be barefoot. So
that's an interesting point, because with Louise, my wife, she doesn't have any trouble being barefoot. She's fine like that. But if she's wearing shoes that don't have support, that's when everything gets out of alignment for her.
Ah,
which is
right. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So it's going to be different for every person. What's your particular situation? That's really what you need to address.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, if you're getting relief with an arch, then use it, because in the end of the day, we can't really participate very well in life if we're in pain.
Exactly.
We've got to look after the pain first, and then we can start participating in life and moving forward. But your body will absolutely demand from your attention. If you stubbed your toe, as Abram says, you stubbed your toe, to think about something else is really, really difficult. That pain brings you back to your toe, brings you back to your toe, brings you back to your toe. So you've really got to think about how this is all going to work. So giving yourself some R&R, time out, putting yourself in a salt bath, etc., and all the rest of it. But this chi machine, again, will start aligning the back, the muscles, the bones, the hips. And also, if you do Egoscue is fantastic for all of that.
It certainly makes sense. I mean, when you are in alignment in other areas of your body, it makes sense that things such as your feet are going to become in better alignment as well, and so you're just going to feel better. So, I mean, that's what alignment's all about. It's not just spiritual, it's not physical, it's both. It's all kinds of alignment matter.
And your source energy goes up and down your spine, so it goes up the back and down the front in Shinjutsu world. And if it's getting blocked with some of those areas in the spine, everything starts shooting off and going in directions or getting blocked. So, and then creating dams of energy, which it shouldn't be in places where it should be, because energy is really designed to be moving.
Yes.
And you don't want to lock the energy in the safety energy locks. You want it to be able to move when it needs to move, and to be firm when it needs to be firm. So you need the flexibility in there of the contrast of what is needed to be able to survive in this world.
And what is it they say about emotion, that it's energy in motion, that's what the E of emotion is all about?
Well,
it's a great way to think about
came up with that ditty, and it's quite apt and accurate. So yeah, I mean, we can definitely go with it. But I don't think the word emotion was originally designed with that idea.
Not originally, no, but these are useful little ideas to keep in mind.
Absolutely, your emotions are really something quite interesting. Playing with the power of them, because they can be extremely powerful, especially when you fall in love. You really get a sense of how incredibly powerful some of your emotions can be.
Very
Falling in love, yeah. Having a loved one who's very ill, that'll do it too. I experienced that with Louise when she had the hyperthyroidism, because at one point I really wasn't sure how long I was going to have her around, and boy, does your ability to focus increase in those situations in a huge way. Yeah. You don't have to work at it. It's not, that's not the issue.
The fascinating thing, Walt, is when you're in dire circumstances like war and all the rest of it, and you've got bullets shooting over you, you've just suddenly got an incredible clean sense of what you need to do to survive in the next few moments, and it's heightened to a degree few people really know or understand. And there was something that I've been looking at recently, there are two fundamental forces working within us at any moment in time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is survival. So if you think about it, you're always looking, one part of you is always looking at survival, isn't it?
Yeah, well, my cats do that all the time. When's the next meal?
Exactly. I do that all the time as well.
You do that too. Louise does that while she's being served the current meal. I mean, yes, I understand.
And, you've got the survival on the one side, and then you've got expansion on the other. That you want to expand. Now, what does survival do for you? Survival now takes you, and for you to survive, you put walls around yourself. Okay, it's like protection.
Yep.
So you build walls around you, and that like protects you, and it gives you boundaries, and boundaries are important. Okay, but after a while, you start realizing that, hey, these boundaries are actually imprisoning me.
That can happen easily.
Yeah. So you've now got these boundaries which are walls around you, which you can't get out of. And, it's like you're not able to be free and happy enough to get out of these things. So you really need to start breaking out of them so you can get that expansion.
Isn't it odd how when we grow up and go through life where we have all kinds of lessons on how to put those walls up, not to mention how to take them down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of an odd thing, really.
We've got a lot of lessons of focusing on what we don't want and very few lessons about focusing on what we do want. Until you've learned LOA and you've turned your attention very keenly and clearly to focus on what you do want, you landed up with that practiced vibration of what you don't want. And it's very difficult to see the wood for the trees because you've got so much of this going on there. And then, a dog, goes out there and pees to create his territory.
We had cats do that last night. It was a big cat fight, not a happy thing. But yes, go ahead.
So
the good news for people who are wondering is Joy came out last year. He was in a cat fight. He came out the loser. He went to the animal hospital. We almost lost him. This year, a little scratch on the ear. That's the worst that he got out of it. But he is a little upset with us today. We're not letting him outside today, so it's too bad. Yeah, he has to endure that for a bit. But no, he came through okay.
So walls that are created by somebody else when you've been put in prison, okay? That's horrible, but walls that are created by yourself is horrendous.
No, worse. Yes.
Okay. So we need to make the distinction between imposed walls and self-imposed walls. And we really want to break out of those self-imposed walls, and we want to expand. So let's say you're in a 1 meter by 1 meter room. Okay. And if
I feel sorry for you already because I'm up of my height. I mean, that's just painful to think about. But,
2 meter by 2 meter room, just for Walt.
Even that's not quite enough. That's 6'6". I'm 6'8". I mean, just saying.
So you'll feel very frustrated in that in a very short period of time. Okay, so let's say we give you a 10 by 10.
Yeah, that's better. I can live with that.
We're going to give you a 10 by 10. Now you'd feel the appreciation of the expansion straight away. Oh, absolutely. Man, so much space. All right. But in no time, this 10 by 10 is not going to be very appealing.
This is true.
And then, if we give you 100 by 100, it's going to feel great in the beginning, but then after a while, and let's say we made Anne-Marie leader of the world, planet Earth, so she runs it.
Congratulations, you've been elected.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm going to do a great job.
Absolutely.
I love it. Love the attitude.
And then in no time you're going to say, looking up at the moon, well, I want to be the rule of that too. And then you're going to start saying, what about the universe? So, and then what about the other universes?
I could do that.
So, yeah.
Meanwhile, the little people are saying, "Tyrant, tyrant."
Stay in your box, Walt.
Well, that's true. If I'm in the box, you can't hear me say that. I get it. Okay.
So there's this whole desire in us always to want to expand and expand and expand. And you really learn that with LOA. You start saying, I just wanted a car to get from A to B, but now I want a Jaguar to go from A to B. Now I want an electric car to go from A to B with all the mod cons. And so there's this endless desire for expansion that comes with our desire. And, if you look at what Abrams says about source energy, the only thing that they have, the only direction and desire is expansion. And you
took me a while to learn that one, by the way. Sorry to interrupt, but the expansion concept took me a while. And even to this day, it still stops me a little bit because I have to think, okay, what are we actually saying when we talk about expansion? Early on, I had such a vague idea of it that I didn't even understand what they meant by it. Now, at least I have some idea what they mean by it. But like when you think of the word, Anne-Marie, I'm going to go to you. When you think of expansion, what does that mean to you?
It just means growth. It's learning. Yeah. Knowledge, growth, expanding your mind, expanding your beliefs.
What about for you, Louis?
Freedom, I think, is a big one.
I like that word.
You can't expand if you're confined or restricted. So freedom becomes a big point, or about, let's say, that whole room scenario I gave. You just want to expand to bigger and bigger and bigger arenas and areas. And it comes coming with it is a huge amount of confidence in the design and the structure and how things work. So it doesn't matter where the boundary is. The moment you can feel the boundary, you want to break it. There's something within you that does not like boundaries. It just doesn't like it. So you cannot become boundless. So you've got two things about yourself. You've got psychological and physiological pain. If you think about it for a second, is there any other pain that doesn't fit into those two categories?
I usually think of it in terms of physical, emotional, and mental, but emotional and mental are so close that,
So what is happening is we don't understand our humanity so well enough to realize that most of the time we're torturing ourselves, mostly psychologically, and that can have repercussions physiologically as well. So we're not in the position to understand, specifically in the beginning when nobody's already explained it to you, that you are often and mostly torturing yourself. If you're just seeing things as they are, you're not tortured by them. If you're just perceiving them as they are, somebody's being rude to me, so they're being rude to me, that's it. I don't have to take on board that I'm suffering because they're rude to me, and that's all psychological drama that you put on yourself. You just, if somebody's being rude to me, they're being rude to me, that's it. It just is what it is. And so we've got this whole thing of not understanding where we are in the whole process of, this drama that's going on in our head is torturing us so much, and it's really killing us physically, emotionally, mentally. It's just destroying our whole physical being. And people are often not even aware that they're doing it to themselves. And it's a big thing to really understand that this is self-inflicted. Almost all of it.
It's the hardest concept, I think, there is to pick up, especially early on when we're learning how this law of attraction, conscious creator stuff works. And that is, I attracted all of it, including the stuff that I really don't want to have to own because, I want to blame somebody else for it. But I attracted that stuff too. That's a hard concept.
You didn't pick your parents, Walt. Come on.
But as you do become aware, those boundaries and things just become so much more uncomfortable.
Oh, they do.
And you notice them a lot quicker as well.
Yes.
That's what I find.
I agree completely. When you get to that space where you're noticing that, that's actually a great space to be in.
Isn't it?
Right?
But there's the appreciation in that moment straight away.
Straight away, no doubt about it. Because now you realize you're actually getting somewhere. Now you recognize the progress that you've made in your own development. Right?
So the thing that I'm starting to come to understand here, Walt, is you can't become boundless through physical means.
Well, it's kind of a contradiction in terms, really, when you think about it.
Exactly. You've got this physicality. You're not boundless. You're very much bound to this body, time, space, etc. So the aspect of boundless, when you're starting to look at it, is not psychological and it's not physiological. So saying something like, and this is on what you don't want, first of all, I'm not, and this comes from Sadhguru, I'm not the body, and I'm not even the mind. Now, in LOA terms, we would say, I am more than the body, and I am far more than the mind. For example, I was trying to find words that are on the other side of the scale for that. A lot of people are really identifying themselves as, I'm Louis, I've got this body, and all the rest of it. But out of that, you can't really get to the boundlessness of life. You're really trying to break the barriers of that boundedness of yourself. And, when people go into these trances and meditate and touch nirvana and all those millions of different experiences, they manage to break away from the physical and psychological drama that are going on in their worlds. And they're able to touch that space of absolute freedom and all the rest of it. So unless you become free in your own identification of the physical form, there's no freedom. That's what consciousness means.
One of the things that occurred to me while you were describing that, very nicely I might add, is yes, you can certainly see it as breaking through, breaking free. But I have to say my own experiences, it isn't so much breaking free, it's more like melting away. It's like just over time, the more work you do on yourself, the less of that other stuff is around anymore. And very often I have a hard time even identifying where it went. Like, I don't know where some of this stuff melted away to. Like, I know there was something there. I know there was. In fact, I don't even know what it was for, but I know it was there and it's not there anymore. That's what it feels like.
Well, going back to my analogy of the dirty water, you've poured so much clean water in, you don't know the dirty water's gone.
Exactly.
Who cares? It's just gone. Dirty water's gone.
What dirty water? What are you talking about?
Exactly. So that kind of feeling, I feel, very much happens to somebody who is very focused on what they want. Then you will get very much that feeling of, that stuff that was bothering me is just gone. Where's it gone? I don't know.
I
don't even really know what it was. It's not even clear what it was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know of something that I have identified for the longest time, for years, as a block, but I didn't know what the root was. And within the last 2 or 3 weeks or so, I found myself kind of reoriented on what's the inverse of that? What is going to be there instead? What's it going to take to let go of it, even though I don't know what the root of it is? And in the process of investigating this stuff, I find that it's just doing the same thing as I described a moment ago. It's melting away. It's breaking up into little pieces and there's nothing that I'm doing. It's not like I have a physical process that I'm doing that's making it go. It's just going. It's just melting away. And I can't tell you where it's from. I can't tell you where it went. I can't tell you what I did. The most that I can tell you is I just kept working on getting myself into a better place.
And to me, that is spot on. That's brilliant. That's the way I do it, and I highly recommend it for anybody and everybody. Just pour more clean water in the glass.
More clean water, yes. Nothing like clean water to wash the dirty water away. No doubt about that. So, when you were, Anne-Marie, dealing with the fact that you were under the weather, I think you described it as being similar to when you got a COVID jab. What was your first thought in terms of, I presume you wanted to climb out of it some way, but what was your first thought in terms of how to do that? What did you end up doing to kind of shift what was going on?
I just had to sleep. So I had to take that time out to rest my body, let it flush it out, and just rest, have some sleep, get through it. But then while I was doing that, I was trying to think, okay, so I was actually really ill on my birthday, but so I was like, how can I appreciate this? I'm having like the worst birthday. And I was like, but you know what? I don't get to spend every day in bed. And
there you go.
when I'm awake, I'm watching Christmas films because I'm a big Christmas fan. So I just did that. And then my little girls came up and gave me hugs, and it was just taking those little things that normally wouldn't have happened and taking the appreciation out of something. But, you know, I needed to do it. And I even kind of said, well, if it wasn't my birthday, I wouldn't get away with staying in bed all day. So, you know, maybe it's a good time for it. That is today, you know, literally just tried to find everything. And I just sat there and I just was like trying to put energy into my body and just take what I needed to do and actually do it for myself.
You get very focused on the small things, you know. And when you're really, really sick, for me, it was a lot to do with just taking the next breath. Because of the asthma. You know, and every breath was a complete struggle just to fill up my lungs a little bit. And it really puts your whole first step of the Abraham Hicks, you know, step 1, focus, puts it in so much clarity. It's just so focused. And that's when you understand how to use LOAs, when you really get to that point of, oh, what happens if I did this when I was relaxed and free and I really focused on what I wanted with absolute clarity. I let it go and I just released it, and let's see what the universe does with it. You know, let's go. And then you start seeing the universe do this with it and that with it, and then you start having trust, faith, belief.
Now, of course, we should touch on one key point here, because you've mentioned the power of what happens when you're focused on what you don't want and you're getting what you don't want. We, as human beings, do have a tendency at times to stay focused on what we don't want. We don't actually shift to the next step. We just say, oh, I really don't like that. I really don't like this thing that's happening to me. In fact, I don't like it so much that I really don't like it. And we just stay there.
Yeah, it happens.
And I used to blame everybody else for being in that spot. It was never my fault.
Just keep blaming. Yeah. It's the most powerful way to stay in that one spot. Just blame everything else. Blame people, blame events, blame circumstances, blame your parents, blame your teachers, you know, blame your doctor, blame your boss.
I'll just blame Walt.
Well, yeah, sure. Here I am. There's blame across the top, yeah.
You've got broad shoulders then.
Yeah, that's right. But blame is such an easy thing to do, and it'll keep us right there, right in that spot, continuously. So if you like that step 1 where you focus on what you don't like and you just want to really stay there, blame's a great way to do it.
Yeah, the blame game.
Very effective. Of course, you probably don't want to stay there, so that's where you have to go on to step 2.
Yeah, I see people around me coming to, slowly, especially on the gaming platform, respect my point of view. The one guy said to me, you know, I've never had anybody with your kind of thinking before. This is just, you know, you're just different to everybody else. And, you know, gets them really thinking about, oh, you know, should I cut people off because they're toxic, or should I look for something good in them? You know, the one guy asked me, am I toxic? And I said, well, I don't think so. And then I thought, but I can probably see what other people do. But he said, you said you don't see me as toxic. And straight away. And I said, yeah, I did. And that's my belief structure. That is what I see. I mean, I just see you as a passionate individual who's trying desperately to get what they want. Of course, not step 3 at all, letting go and letting source energy flow. But, you know, very passionately going about what they want, swearing and all the rest of it, but, you know, passionate about where they want to go. But that's fine, you know, and I only when somebody started saying to me that guy is toxic did I even think for even the fraction of a second that the guy was toxic. I'd never thought of him as toxic. But you start understanding that this is a label that has been picked up in social media, especially gaming communities. And it wasn't really around before. You never, when we were kids, Walt, we never said, hey, that guy, it's toxic. You just say he's a bully or something, but, you know, we had different words, I suppose.
The concepts have been around for millennia, but, yeah, the word is fairly new. But in the fact that it is a word that we refer to, I think that's really what you're talking about, that people make it part of their lexicon, so to speak. Yeah. It's really more an indication of where they're focusing attention than anything else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
mean, I use the word toxic too, but I'm doing it in the context of talking with people who are focused on toxicity. So it's my way of saying, yes, I see the toxicity. Do I connect to the toxicity? Not at all. No. I have no interest in connecting to it.
Do I spend any time thinking about it?
No. Not really, no.
Not going there.
And on those occasions where I find myself actually focusing on it, I stop myself and say, oh boy, I really didn't like that experience. Let's get off that topic real fast.
But it's really good advice, Louis, because you're lady with the tie, appreciating the tie. I took that on board last week because I wasn't feeling well, wasn't great at work, and I was just in a real hump. And I sort of had a conversation with somebody, and I was just like, right, I've really got to find what I appreciate in you. I can't focus on me being ill and not up for this. So I was just like, I really like how she's like this, and I really like how she's so clever, and she picks things up and she helps me. And it just literally changed there and then, and it was such good advice, but it stuck in my head and it came in useful. So thank you for that.
Great.
That's a keeper. Nice.
It's difficult to see the wood for the trees because you're in that work situation. They're always terrible to you. You've got this active vibration going, and to break out of it, you have to change your thinking. You just have to. There's no real choice. It's what's going to change everything in that environment. So, yeah, I'm just so glad that the word which would use is conscious awareness of what was happening. Therefore, you could consciously change things, and that's brilliant. I'm always looking to help people see that.
That awareness is a key point too. I don't want to skip past that one, because there's also the flip side of that awareness, and that is, are you aware when you are basically contradicting yourself? Sometimes it's a harder one to notice, but it's also very valuable to notice. I'll give you an example. I saw somebody who posted in social media, Facebook I think it was, about how they were having this real problem with this person that they absolutely have to work with. I guess one person is the person who's the problem person is the president of the housing community authority, whatever it is, and the person who is talking about it is the vice president. So they have to work together, according to this person. And she listed all the different ways that she had tried to deal with the person, get her energy up, blah 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 blah, all those things, and none of them were working. And how it didn't matter what she did, this other person just behaved terribly toward her. And I thought about it. I said to myself, does she realize what she's doing there? I don't think she does.
No,
she hasn't taken the time to recognize that she's contradicting herself in the way that she says that. It's so easy to get caught up in that.
The wording says everything. If you just take the wording out, break it down, and you can see exactly focusing what you don't want.
Right.
And it's really simple. If you just take the time of breaking down the wording, is this what I want? What I've just said about this person, or is this what I don't want? And
exactly.
It comes out very clear in the wash when you just take the words, because words are very powerful, very, very powerful, especially when they're said to yourself again and again and again. Law of attraction takes them, amplifies them, and off it runs. So, yeah.
And even if you're not in a place where you find yourself able to do that little exercise, it just feels like it's too much. You still feel like you're dealing with too much. Even there was a flaw, because she had built a wall and she refused to take the wall down. The wall was she had to be vice president of the housing association. Why? Was it a law? Was she conscripted? Were they holding a gun to her head? You will be the vice chairman. No,
it's just a desire in her head, and when somebody gets what they want, they feel very satisfied. When they don't get what they want, they're not satisfied. So,
but the odd thing though is, and this is where I think the stuckedness comes from. They become satisfied by the fact that they're continuing to not get what they want.
The self-sabotaging aspect.
Yeah. Well, it's self-sabotaging, but it's also comfortable. It's what they call the comfort zone. You're so used to, I call it the familiar zone. It's so familiar that it almost feels like it's wrong to be out of it. So we find ways to justify staying in it.
I'm going through that a little bit at the moment, because as a kid, I was a nerd. I was socially defunct, and, a lot of people didn't like me very much, or that was my perception. And then more recently, My wife and I and our family in general, we're getting invitations everywhere. We're going to these people and those people, and they coming here, and we've been socially more active than we've ever been before. And both my wife and I say, well, this is a bit weird because this is an old comfort zone that we weren't really in before, of
right.
Not being invited here or that and whatever, because of our thoughts, because of what we believed, really, because we've both, really get along very well and all the rest of it. We don't really care too much what other people think. But now we've got a daughter, our youngest daughter, who's incredibly popular.
Mm.
She's very, very popular. So, everybody's coming around and doing this and doing that and all the rest of it. And we're having to deal with that, a level of social interaction. And it's very, very simple and easy, once you get into the swing of it. But there is this resistance like, oh, I've got this old belief that I'm not necessarily that popular and all the rest of it. That really is that comfort zone. I'm comfortable there. I am very comfortable. People not necessarily liking me, that. I don't care. But now when people are actually liking you, praising you, commenting on it, and then you've got to change that vibration to kind of fit into where the new expansion has taken you. And you've got to ride it, because you don't necessarily need to carry that weight of, nobody loves me, everybody hates me, I could eat some worms, as I had to say at school. In my high school, my first year of high school, they made us sing that song all the time.
Wonderful friends.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
This was the final years torturing the new comers to the school.
Yeah.
It was interesting. The guy that used to torture me, my sister and his sister were in the same class, and I knew, I'll call her V, quite well. Because we used to pop into their house because my sister used to go there and all the rest of it. And then I found out that her brother played chess. So I went in there and played the guy chess and absolutely thrashed him. Now, I'm 5 years younger than him. So when I went to high school, he was the guy who picked on me all the time to, you must learn the school anthem, which is at the foot of our Maconja, our school shines like a gem. For us, there's no better to share with you of them. We are proud of our achievements, perseverance is our dream, of the maker of our nation, God our honor and palm. Because he forced it into me.
You probably know it better than any other graduate of the school.
Yep. I don't think anybody knows it as well as I do. But,
some people would say, what school song? What is he talking about?
And, I've had to deal with these kind of things all my life. And, of course, they've made me stronger. They made me very resilient and all the rest of it. But there's a point when resilience is, as I was talking about earlier, is a protection. It's a wall that I've created, which I need to expand out of. And this is common to lots of people in different subject matters, etc., that one needs to expand. And I'm starting to become more and more gregarious and fun-loving, and not really caring too much about philosophy and concepts and ideas anymore, and just chilling and just talking, freely and talking rubbish. In the past, I couldn't have conversations that weren't particularly enlightening or directed in some way to achieve some expansion or whatever. I would just find it boring. I remember at school sitting there listening to all these guys talking about motorbikes and the boards that you ride on and all that kind of stuff. They would go on about it and I'd just blank out, and most of my life's been like that. All these conversations about arbitrary topics, just boring. And now I can start looking at these arbitrary conversations and see what people are meaning, where they're going, what they're trying to say, what they're not saying, and just enjoying it and just letting it be. And it's a journey, it's a journey that you go on to do all this. I'm also really getting into soil, as I've mentioned, and I've started making connections around the place and I'm starting to go now to allotments to have a look at what people have done and people that are really into it and all the rest of it. So I'm quite keen to working on this whole expansion of the soil thing, because it's really grabbing me. I'm quite fascinated by it.
We've gotten that impression, actually. Yes.
Yeah. So
which is a good
more
thing.
and more movies people are throwing my way. So if any of you listeners have got a good movie for me to listen to about the planet and soil and all that kind of thing. And
prepare for the emails.
Yeah. There are a lot out there. There's
are.
even a website that's got a whole collection of them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, there's a whole service that called Gaia that's all about all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, they also go off the deep end. Not the
Yeah,
deep
well,
end.
there's
They've
like
got a
a moral message
broader, far broader than just soil or related to it. They go all over.
There's certain
place.
agendas in there and so forth.
There's something about them that I haven't really bonded with. So
I
kind of
totally understand. I do have to ask you one thing.
I don't even know what it is because I haven't even watched anything. It's just something about something that they've done that I think it's the way they've advertised it or something. It's just grinded me a little bit, and I can't even put my finger on it. But I'm sure a lot of people are really enjoying it, and it's worthwhile for many. And maybe it is even for me. But I've got a little thing. I've got a wall which I need to break out of.
Apparently, yes. Well, maybe this will help. I don't know. Maybe this will actually get in the way. It's hard to tell. But when you were talking about how you thrashed him in chess being 5 years younger, it kind of reminded me of a scene from the original Star Wars movie where R2-D2 is playing the Wookiee in that little chess type game with the animals, and Han Solo points out that Wookiees have a tendency to rip people's heads off when they lose. C-3PO says, I suggest a new strategy, R2-D2, let the Wookiee win. I'm just curious, did you ever try to let the Wookiee win?
You know, Walt, I've always had a lot of challenges with chess. I can go into a couple of others, but I only ever played in one game.
Ah!
That was enough.
Got it.
That was enough to damage him completely. I wouldn't even to give him the opportunity of having the idea of letting him win.
So rematch wasn't even part of the vocabulary. I get it.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
You see, my dad taught me chess, and one day I beat him, and he never, ever, ever played me again.
Do you know, I've got a daughter who's beating me at backgammon.
He helped me buy my own chess computer.
So I've got a daughter who's beating me at backgammon now, and I'm just keep thinking, it's just because I'm a good teacher. That's all it can be.
So, Anne-Marie, there's a great analogy with that is in China, in martial arts, a master is never satisfied until he has a student that surpasses him.
I like that.
I like that too.
Well, she's doing it at 9 years old.
Well, that's cool. Having said that, on the other hand, there's also the flip side, because when I was in college, I used to get all my pocket money by playing backgammon with this one particular guy who I could beat every single time. And I never asked him for a game. He would always ask me for the game because he was determined he was going to beat me the next time. And he never did. I made a lot of money off the guy.
I like the idea of playing for money.
I did.
Well, the doubling cube becomes very important in that game. Without the money, there's no point in a doubling cube. But yes.
Mm-hmm. I see JB says there, that's sad, Louis. So at the time, probably was. But now it's strengthened me. That made my character, made me who I am today. So it helped me carve who I am today. So I'm very grateful for it now.
That's a recurrent theme. I mean, we've experienced that theme a lot here on the show. People I've interviewed, people who've been co-hosts and so forth. Over and over and over again, the people who experienced the roughest stuff in life came out with the highest flying rockets.
Yeah.
It's a universal theme. It happens over and over again. I've never seen an exception, actually. And I think it's because they strengthen us.
Well, Walter, was quite interesting. I had this life coach I found on the internet, and he was teaching me for free. But of course, I'll end up teaching most of these guys. But one of the little things he got me to do was to send him an email every day of everything I was grateful for. He said, you can do it if you want or not. So I decided, let me give it a go. So I'm really grateful for the adversity I had at work today, because it's helped strengthen me. And he came back to me immediately and he said, you're only the second person in all the years I've been helping people who has actually said they're grateful for something that is negative.
Ah.
And this is brilliant. It's such a step forward and all the rest of it. And, he was like going on and on about how impressed he was that I picked this up so quickly in the early stages of not saying I'm grateful for my mom and my dad and my house and my life and my car. I'm grateful for that guy that was rude to me today. I'm grateful.
Well, let's be honest, though. That is a big step. That's a huge step.
Yeah.
That's an advanced step.
But, it only lasted a few more weeks, and then I was teaching him all the time. He was downloading and buying all the books I was recommending, and then we were discussing.
So you reversed the fee. Instead of you not paying him anything, he didn't pay you anything. Is that it?
Well, I was giving him value.
Okay.
I was paying him.
Yeah.
But, you every time I've had somebody who's been a psychologist in any shape or form to help me, which is only really after the army and this guy, both of them I ended up teaching. But that's fine, it's not good or bad. It just is what it is.
I think it's actually good. You take it back to somebody who's one of the great spiritual teachers, but I've seen it in a lot of different guises among humans here on Earth, just being normal human beings. The best teachers are the ones who are willing to learn from their students. And the roles can actually switch. One moment one's the teacher, the other student, and vice versa. It flips over the other way, and then it flips back, and then it flips. That's the best kind of relationship where you're learning from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. A teacher learns something very different to the student. The student learns what the teacher has to teach, say LOA or something. But the teacher learns a lot about how to teach people.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And there is learning, but it is very different learning. It's learning on a very different level, and I've come to really understand that and appreciate the differences between the learning of student and the learning of a teacher. Yeah.
Although the teacher can also learn the subject too from the student as well. Like the teacher can take the student up to point X. That's how much the teacher has learned about the subject. And the student learns a little bit more and then teaches the teacher. And then the teacher picks it up and decides to take it to the next level. And it's they're kind of like leapfrogging each other after that.
Yeah, never experienced that, but I'm sure.
Oh, if you haven't experienced that, let me tell you, that's really a great experience. Well, actually, I think you have. You've been on the show.
Probably with my mentor. Probably.
With your mentor? Sure, I'm sure.
I don't know. She was really my teacher. I don't know if I taught her much. Yeah, I would have taught her something. But I never really thought about that aspect. I wasn't thinking of teaching. I was really thinking of learning at that stage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She was great. I mean, there's nothing greater than cycling and just being on such a high. I'm going to see my mentor. I'm going to see this lady. I mean, there was no love. There was no romanticism. There was none of that. It was all null and void. But I'm cycling all the way to her. She's about an hour cycle. And I'm just on a high. I'm literally floating on that bicycle. And when I get there, she can see right through me. To such a degree, I felt like I was naked, pins and needles.
Right.
Just all your bullshit's left outside when you walk in that door, and you're just naked. It was quite an experience for me because she literally had to take the hammer and chisel away, bit by bit to get into who I was, because I'd built up so many of those walls I was talking about earlier to protect myself at school from all the bullies and all the rest. So nobody really bullied me, but the walls were thick. You'd have to try to get through those walls to be able to do anything to me. But again, they mostly left me alone because I had a very solid defense system that was going on, even though it was more energetic than social on any stretch of the imagination. But, I started the nerd group, and it was just the two of us, and we both played chess, and then suddenly there were 3, 4, and by the time I finished matric, there was like 6 or 7 of us. And these were just all the rejects, but the conversations we had were intellectual and stimulating, and, I had a brilliant time. These guys were phenomenal. I've still got so much respect for Guido and Jeff and all these other guys, and Willoughby, etc. They just were such teachers for me. All brilliant.
That's a fabulous experience. Well, this has also been a fabulous experience. So thank you once again for a wonderful Monday, guys. And Anne-Marie, I trust you're going to be even healthier by the time we see you next week, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Okay, good. Yeah. So we'll expect the full report. And Louis, as always, thank you for all your insights. We really appreciate that very much. Thank you to JD for helping us in the live stream. And thank you to podcast listeners everywhere. We will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.